Hey, how you doing? It's Reed, your friend in the neighborhood real estate agent, and I'm here with a little info on how to keep your house in great condition and take care of it. We are well into springtime. The days are getting longer and warmer. This is the time of year when it's time to uncover your vents. So we have vents around our foundation of our house. They're usually about like yay big. You got a metal screen on them to keep the critters out and let the air flow in. Sometimes people put covers on those to keep the airflow out when we're having some really cold, freezing weather in order to prevent their pipes from freezing. Not that bad of a deal. You just got to remember to uncover those. It's really important that we have good airflow underneath the house. It lowers the humidity. When we have high humidity from that air being trapped in there, and we have this really moist environment because it rains a lot here, and we get a lot of moisture underneath the house and there's no airflow, it traps it in and it creates a couple of problems. Number one, the ideal place for mold and mildew to grow. Number two is the ideal environment for powder post beetles, which are the wood destroying insects that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. We don't have the kind of termites that they have in California or in Florida or Texas that will eat your house up to, for a Scooby snack. But powder post beetles, they work a little bit slower, but they are equally damaging to your home. So I run into this with a fair amount of regularity. Oftentimes it's just a small localized infestation and it's easily treated. Other times it can cause structural damage to the house and you end up having to replace some beams underneath there, which number one, you just don't want to do. Number two, it's a headache when you're selling your house, which is usually when the inspection happens and you find out about it. So best thing we can do is keep that airflow moving underneath the house. The third thing that happens is if we don't have that airflow is sometimes because of the rain, we'll get groundwater will actually come up underneath the house, or we get a lot if you're on a hill, water will come in through the side of the foundation. And when you have that proper ventilation, that water will just evaporate and go away. Standing water under your house is what we call high humidity, and that's not something you want. You want to make sure you have those screens in place to keep the critters out. Make sure you don't have mice and rats and rabbits and raccoons living and breeding underneath your house. They will wreak havoc with the insulation. It becomes expensive. It stinks. It's not something you really want to deal with. You put that insulation in there to keep your home insulated and keep your energy bills down. You want to keep that insulation there. So make sure those vents have screens in them and the covers are off most of the year, except for the really cold months in the wintertime. The same thing goes for your attic. So in the attic, sometimes you've got vents at the end of the house and sometimes there's some up in the soffits. Some of the older houses have the round vents in the soffits. Often you'll see 3 of them in a row in each little bay through there in the soffit. Also have the roof vents on top of the roof. You have the metal vents that stick up, and then you also have a ridge vent, which is actually you'll see on a asphalt shingle roof. You'll see a raised section right at the very top, and it just right on the peak. And basically, it's corrugated plastic that lets air come up and flow out underneath those shingles. So you need to have air coming in from a lower area and a place up high for air to go out to get that ventilation. Because same thing, you don't want mold and mildew in there, you don't want powder post beetles. I don't really run into that too often in attics, but the other thing you run into in attics is birds. Birds will find a way to get through one of those screens, and then they make their nest in your nice cozy attic space where it's nice and warm, and they raise their babies, and then you have a nest up there, and that can get messy. Also, you can get bats in your attic space. You can also get bees or hornets living up there and creating a nest, which is something you really, really don't want. So that's why they make that grid the size that it is. You don't want to just randomly put something with a bigger hole in it. You're trying to keep a whole bunch of stuff out and yet let sufficient airflow in. So I hope that helps and you get out and take a look at your vents. Sometimes you have to be careful when you get insulation replaced. I've seen where the installers with insulation, especially in attics, will cover up those vents, which they should not be doing. And then same thing in the crawl space down below. I've seen them insulation hang down and cover up some of those vents. So I want to make sure we're not letting that happen. Let your house breathe. It needs to breathe so that it can take care of you. And if you do need to have, if you find you have an infestation, that can be thousands of dollars. I will just tell you from my experience that not all contractors are equal. Some contractors specialize in that kind of work, and it seems to me they do tend to take advantage of people because your instinct is to call the company that sounds like that's just what they do. And I just be warned, I would suggest you get at least 3 different quotes for the work that you're going to have done. And at least one of those, if not 2, should be from just a general handyman or contractor who has experience doing it. It's not rocket science, but they are going to tend to be less expensive. Had a case with a client where one of these companies that specialized in that came in, their price was like $7,000, $8,000. And then they when the client hesitated, they said, well, you know, our crews are going to be really slow this week, so I'll take $1,000 off if you guys want to sign right now, and we'll get this going for you. That is a sales pitch. Don't fall for it. Luckily, they called me. I said, don't do it. We got 2 more quotes. Both were substantially less money. One of them was half the price of that first quote. They came in, got the work done in a couple of days, knocked it out, saved several $1,000s. So there's my 2 cents to save you a few bucks for the month of May. Everybody have an amazing day and enjoy this beautiful weather we're having. And if I can do anything for you, please feel free to give me a call. My business is helping you and your friends and your family with real estate, whether it's buying or selling real estate or just answering questions or connecting you with someone to help you maintain your home or make improvements to your home. I have a list of contractors that I work with that I know that I'm very comfortable with, that I would be happy to refer to you, and so that maybe take a little bit of the concern out of that. But in all cases, you should always get at least a couple, 3 quotes from somebody, from different people. All right, have an amazing day. We'll talk soon.